All right, once again, a gute Woche. We could start over. A gute, I don't know what, bin Zmanim. Hope everybody's fast was good. We had very bad news over Erev Tisha B'Av. Avi Epstein, Dr. Avi Epstein's wife, Rita, was nifter. It was pretty sudden. We were saying Tehillim for her. She had the machla. She was going through treatment. It was in her tongue. And then because of the treatment, she got an infection and she couldn't overcome the infection. So terrible news. Literally, she was buried just a few hours before Tisha B'Av. She was a great friend of the Shir. She used to make us cookies, brownies, all sorts of stuff. She was a very, very special person and giving. Always had a smile on her face. No matter what, she was always smiling. So it's a big loss to the Shir, big loss to the whole neighborhood. And so that's Avi. Tomorrow morning we have Shir as regular, 7:15. There's nothing better than a Friday, Shabbos, Sunday, and a Thursday that's a fast. To prepare shiurim, it's beautiful, it's wonderful when you can't learn 24 hours before the shir. So it's always great. Today's shir is being sponsored by Yosef Weisberg. Weisberg Photography, we spoke about him. Lili Nishmas Shraga Feivel Ben Meir Halevi, his uncle. You able to see that? I don't know if you're able to see. All right. So everybody, I was listening to the shiurim over Tisha B'Av, the Chofetz Chaim Heritage Foundation shiurim. The theme was Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. And all I can think about is our shir. Because what's special about our shir, we're not just Daf Yomi shir, we're a family. And we have so many different types of people. All you need to do is look at one page of Zoom and you see it all. You see the guys with the beers, Talmid Chachamim, Koil guys, modern Orthodox, Tzionim, Hasidim, it's everything, runs the gamut. So we start right here during the daf. Not only are we learning Gemara and Torah, but we're also doing Achdus and Shalom at the same time. And that brings me to this email. I thought it was appropriate for tonight from Mendel Mitz, which we just read an email from him because he's famous. He's from Argentina, Buenos Aires. But here's what he says, and this is what's very special about the shir. Dear Rebelli, Buenos Aires and South Africa. Who would have thought there would be a connection? The day after you read my last email by Shir about my last name being changed to Mitz from Mat, Leon Welcher, founder of the app, who usually watches the Shir on YouTube, contacted me and discovered that we are indeed related. It works out that my great-great-grandfather, Yehuda Leib Metz, whom I told you about, who was a Rav and had a base at Tfus, a printing press in Vilna, was married to Friedel Metz. When Yehuda Leib passed away, his late wife Friedel, Bekitzer, remarried Yisrael Welcher. Small world. So we're making the connections through Zoom, through the shir. There's a lot of connections going on. This is a old one. Like this is going back 4 generations. All right. So Yisrael Welcher and Friedel Metz are Leon Welcher's great grandparents. Leon has been looking for his lost family from Vilna for many years, because again, South Africans are mostly 90% of them are Litvish. So he's looking for his family from Vilna. He told me to tell you that he's very happy now, and thanks to his shir, is able to find some of his long lost family from Vilna. He sent some pictures, and now that he started to watch the night shir on Zoom, sometimes beforehand on YouTube, and he watches an additional on Zoom at night, I can see not only that you have the schus to be married with Torah, you also have brought many people closer to Yiddishkeit and closer to one another in a beautiful achdus of people from all walks of life, be it Litvish, Lubavitch. Because Mendel is Lubavitch, as his name would say. Although he started out Litvish, his great-grandfather was Litvish, somewhere along the line they became Lubavitch, Hasidish, Modern Orthodox, Gronics, and here's the shtoch, and ex-Gronics. Yichap what's going on here, because I guess his family was Gronics, they're from Vilna. And the list goes on. I also made some shidduchim through MDY, or at least attempted to. No, we had a bunch of shidduchim. From the story, you see the United Mishpacha, a chashuv mishpacha from Vilna that has been separated for over 100 years. So here's a connection from over 100 years. May continue to be mashpia, marbit story mashpia, thousands around the world together with Leon's app, and with the help, by the way, there's supposed to be a brand new app coming out any day now. And maybe we all be reunited together in Yerushalayim, hopefully not too far from MDY, Bevias Goyal Tzadik B'Meir V'Yameinu, Amen. Yours sincerely, Mendel Mitz, Buenos Aires, Argentina. Do we have, okay, this is my Hall of Fame email here. I'll just read the parts maybe that I didn't read on Friday real quickly. Dear Rebelli Shlita, after the last Sima Shas at MetLife 8 years ago or so, which I did not attend, people told me I must go to the next one, even just to experience Shema together with 90,000 other people, which myself and Yeshua, Aaron Price, we had tickets to go. But we canceled because we wanted to be at the Sima Shas in Yerushalayim. So he still has a ticket. I don't know what happened to mine. So during the last cycle, I decided to listen to the Daf Shir background noise. Blah, blah, blah. Even in Gemara, so I never actually sat down with the Gemara last cycle to do Daf. At the Sima Shas just back in January, which I attended with my family, I saw the ad for the 8-minute Daf. I don't know what he's referring to because I don't know if there was an ad there, but maybe like on Yeshiva World News, which led me to your full Daf Shir, which I have not only been listening and watching since Brachas Daf Beis, but I've sat there every day with your shir, following along in the printed Gemara. I might have even read this on Friday. I'm just going to do Chazara because it's so beautiful. I love this part. And it's Matzei Tisha B'Av. I was always taught we don't learn anything but Tisha B'Av related topics on Tisha B'Av because learning brings one joy. You're not supposed to have that joy on Tisha B'Av. However, since learning with you, I probably for the first time in my life actually enjoy learning Gemara, even if I don't grasp every sugya in parentheses. And this will surely, and by the way, it's okay not to grasp every sugya. We're doing Daf Yomi. There are going to be sugyas you don't grasp 100%, and we move on. We go to the next sugya. And this will surely be the first Tisha B'Av I understand what the joy of learning is. Unreal. I will truly miss not being able to learn with you this Wednesday night and Thursday, but of course I know I'll be able to catch it first after the fast, like I do every Matzah Shabbos. B'kitzur, Long Island, New York. Somebody yelled at me, somebody wrote me an email, why did you mention the guy's initials? He put the initials here, and he didn't say I shouldn't read this. I don't know. I got yelled at. Fine. Anyway, tremendous thing. He's not the first person that told me that he finally understands why you can't learn Torah on Tisha B'Av. It brings him a lot of tzar. So anyway, we're holding Daf Kuf Mem Hey Amud Beis. Today's Daf Kuf Mem Vav. And we are holding 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 lines from the bottom. And it goes like this. We had a very interesting story where we had Reb Chia bar Abba and Reb Asi were sitting right in front of Rabbi Yochanan when Rabbi Yochanan took he dozed off. A little naparu, Erev Tisha B'Av, whatever it was, went to sleep. And they started asking each other questions, and Reb Asi was saying all these answers. Rabbi Yochanan wakes up, and he says, I heard everything you said. Didn't I teach you that if you don't know 100%, don't say anything? Don't say what you said is all not true. So one of the questions was Reb Chia bar Abba asked Reb Asi, how come people are so happy in Bavel when there's a Yontif? Whereas in Eretz Yisrael, they're not so happy, right? Because Rabbi Yochanan is in Eretz Yisrael. So this story happened in Eretz Yisrael. Why is it that in Eretz Yisrael, people are not so happy by Yontif? So Rabbi Asi tried to tell him because Eretz Yisrael, they're wealthy, and there's not such a simcha, but in the Chutz La'aretz, they're not as wealthy, and therefore, when the Yontif comes along, it's a big simcha. Says Rabbi Yochanan, no, that's not what happened. There's a curse that happened to Eretz Yisrael and not to Bavel. The Chsiv, Vishbati kol masoisa, I'm going to end all the happiness, Chago, the Yom Tovim, Chodsha, Rish Chodesh, V'Shabbata, V'chol Mayado, all Yom Tov. Uchsiv, Chod Sheichem, this is talking to the people, to the Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. Chod Sheichem u'Mayadechem sono nafshi, I despise your Yom Tovim. So if you're new to the shir, this is when I start looking for my place thing, and I misplace it, and then David Agal sends me a thing. Here it is. It's part of the shtick. I put it down over here. I know exactly where it is, and then I start looking. Fine. Vishbati kol musoyis chachechem u'ederim son nafshi. I hate Yom Tovim. Hayu lay l'toyrach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, your Yom Tovim are a burden to me. Unbelievable. My hayu lay l'toyrach. What kind of burden? Amar Reb Elazar Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Lo yidai li Yisrael shechaytim l'fanai. It's not enough that they sin. El shmatrichin oisi leida izig zayir. I have to think about this. They're making me think. Izig zayir kosha avi aleim. It's a tirda for me. I have to punish them. And the punish is not simple. I'm just thinking now out loud. Like when your kid does something bad. So it's not enough that you make trouble. Now I have to think, do chachma. Like if I give him a patch in the face, that's illegal. So what I do, if I put him in his room, it doesn't work. So you have to start thinking. It's like a whole... It's not enough that you're making trouble. Now I have to start thinking. I have to use my brain. Because Baruch was saying, kaviyachal, like he has to... It's a tircha. It's terrible. Every yontif, the soldiers, the troops walk right in here. Every yontif, all these governors, rulers, officials, all these crazy people, they come in, they start taking more taxes. And if you notice, they say, it always happens by yontif. This is a punishment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is dishing out to the Klal Yisrael on Yontif. Another thing they asked Rabasi. So how come these Talmidei Chachamim, they dress so nicely? In Bavel only. In Israel they look like shlumpers. Lefi she'ena b'nei Mekayman. So Rabasi was saying because they're not such Talmidei Chachamim, they're known with their clothing. Comes Rabbi Yochanan and says, no, that's not true. It's not that they're not Talmidei Chachamim. In fact, they might be greater Talmidei Chachamim than us. It's because they're not in the right place. They don't feel comfortable. The Amri Inchi b'masa shemai. Where I live, my name is enough. B'loy masa, but where I don't live, toisvai. I need my clothing. If you look in America, for instance, the two groups of people, I'm not going to mention one of them, but it's basically Jews and another minority. They like to overdress. Because they don't feel comfortable. They're the minority. When you're a minority, you always have to pop out with the yellow suit, the this, the that. You didn't know. They like to dress. They like to look different. Something like this. If you're not in Ben Makam, you don't feel that you belong. You have to show that you're different with your clothing. Yotze to Parach Yisrael. They'll blossom. They'll be like flowers. So this is to show that Rav Asi was wrong. Rabbi Yochanan wakes up and he says, it's not true, Rav Asi, what you're saying. You're saying that the Talmidei Chachamim in Bavel, they were weak in learning, they had to show off with their clothing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they're very strong in learning. And this is what it says in the Pasuk, beautiful, they blossom, and there's everything going on here. Flowers they make. So the point is, my idea, that they feel like they're in a different country. Last line on and the question that you asked, why are Goyim, they have impurity, they have zuamo, shloi omdu al har Sinai. So Ravasi, if you remember, said it's because they eat shkotzim v'remasim. And I'm telling you, it's because they weren't present at Har Sinai. Why? With the Eitz Hadas, the Nachash pushed her this, finally, they had relations. And that relation, Hitul Bazuma, inserted a Zuama into her for life, forever. Klal Yisrael has that Zuama. Ad Yisrael Shom Dal Har Sinai. So when did the Zuama go away? Klal Yisrael went to Har Sinai. Har Sinai was the healer of all healing. Anybody had a disease, they went to Har Sinai, poof, went away. So the Zuama also went away. So the Ger, who's to begin with, he wasn't present at Har Sinai. Sorry, Goyim. We're talking about Goyim now. So that's Rabbi Yochanan's answer. So how are you going to answer a Ger? A Ger has Zuama? No, a Ger doesn't have Zuama. But he wasn't at Har Sinai. What are we going to do? There's such a thing that a ger, his mazal is there, and that's why he's a ger today, and that mazal makes the zuama go away. The chsiv, I'm just curious, like when exactly does the zuama go away? From when the mazal is there, all the way throughout all the generations until he becomes a ger, or when he becomes a ger, then the mazal pops in. It's mashma later on. The chsiv, es asher yeshno po yimonu oim edayoyim lefnei Hashem. Whoever's here, standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, es asher yinenu po yimonu oim edayoyim. Still here. Okay, es asher yinenu. Those who were physically not here, their mazal is here. Says the Gemara, so when does the zuama go away? By Har Sinai. So that's a machlokes with Reb Abba bar Kahana. The Omer Reb Abba bar Kahana, at shloisha doros lo yipasku zuama ma'aviseinu. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov had zuama. Even they had zuama. Avram hoyled Yishmael. Look, the Gemara is telling us that Avram had Yishmael because of the zuama. Yitzchak hoyled Esav. Yaakov hoyled Yud. I always like to tell people, like, they say, oh, my son went off the derech, da da da. So Avram Avinu also had a son who went off the derech. And Rashi says over there, he hated Yishmael. Because he went off the derech, he hated him. Maybe it's not such a great raya, because Avram had Zuama. The Zuama caused the son to go off the derech, but we that don't have Zuama, it's a bigger shaila. We always, if Avram had Yishmael, so okay, no. So you could also, Moshe Yankel could also have a shtickle guy that went off the derech. But maybe not. They had Zuama. Avram hoyled Yishmael. Yitzchak hoyled Esav. The reason why Yitzchak had Esav is because he had Zuama. Yaakov hoyled shtemse shvatim shelo yoyu behem shum doifi. So why is this a problem? Because look, the Zuama disappeared by the shtemse shvatim. Not by Har Sinai. Way before Har Sinai, there's no longer any Zuama. In other words, throughout Mahol Mitzrayim, there's no Zuama. Says the Mishnah, Shoiver Odom Esachaves Lechol Memenu Groigros. You let it break a barrel open, and you grab from within the barrel some dried figs. So what's the problem? It's not a problem. It's a good thing. Why? You're breaking. Breaking is okay, says Rashi. Look at Rashi. First Rashi in the Mishnah, he says, the aim b'mekalkel shum iser b'Shabbos. Now that's very problematic. There's no isser to break something on Shabbos. I could take my table, my dining room, and smash it in half on Shabbos. So the first answer that'll come to your head is, when it comes to food, I'm allowed to open up a pack of potato chips on Shabbos, but I'm ruining it. But it's for food, so it's okay. But other breaking on Shabbos is usher. You're not allowed to break things on Shabbos. Yes, it's not an isser deraisa because it's mekalkel, but it's still an isser derabanan. And Rashi says, ain't shum isser, there's nothing. L'chatchila, you go ahead and break a barrel. That's what the Mishnah says. And the answer is because it's for food purposes. So when I break this open, I'm not allowed to have kavana to make it a kli. What I really wanted to look up is, unfortunately I didn't have time because of Tisha B'Av. I'll have to do it at different times. Like, how does this fit in with the whole sugya of opening up cans on Shabbos? Bottles, cans, that sort of thing. I really wanted to look it up. I don't open up cans. I'm not even sure why. I know my father didn't, but now my father does, and I'm just stuck with not. Talking about my father, by the way, I have to tell you this Maisa. And this, first of all, we say all the time, it's not about the daf, it's about the yomi. And that's what we're all about today. Matzei Tisha B'Av. We have 80 people right now on Zoom. On Matzei Tisha B'Av. When people want to go to sleep, they want to eat, they just want to rest. Who has time for learning now? Who has the head for it? But it's not about the daf, it's about the yomi. We learned yesterday and we learned today. There are not many shurim in the world that learn every single day. They'll do 2 daf every Tisha B'Av and they're potter for Tisha B'Av. We'll see after Shabbos. So that's number 1. But I just want to tell you a quick story. I don't talk about my father that much, but he's a huge, huge masmid. And he was at my house for a Tisha B'Av in Chicago. And during Tisha B'Av, of course, I took my Tisha B'Av nap, my 6-7 hour nap, and I watched some videos and I was good to go. Then like about 3 o'clock in the morning, I roll out of, I can't sleep. I can't sleep. So it was 4. It was 4 in the morning. I finally decided, okay, I'm going to go down to the basement to whatever, take care of something. I go to the basement, I see my father learning. I'm like, what's going on? He says, what do you mean, what's going on? I had Tisha B'Av. and I have all these chayvus. I have to pay up. So I know that he wasn't sleeping on Tisha B'Av, and he was up the whole night, and then Kitzer, Friday night he finally went to sleep. But anyway, whatever day that was. So there are people in the basement, like nobody sees him, not in shul, Yes, you can't learn on Tisha B'Av, you have to make it up. Fine. So Zok the Mishnah. How did I get to that? I have no idea. Oh, because I was saying that it's Tisha B'Av and I couldn't look up this halach, and then I remember about my father about cans. Yeah. So it's a big sugya. Opening of battles, not opening battles, making it clear, not making it clear. Fine. Now, what's a megufa? A megufa is this guy. It's like what we have today, like a bottle cap, the red guy that goes over a barrel. And the blue is like the wax that holds that red guy in place. So it says you cannot make a hole in the megufa. Don't make a hole in it. Let's see if I have another picture here of a hole in the megufa. No, I don't think so. It's there in Yoni somewhere, but not by me. Okay. You can't poke a hole in the megufa. V'chachamim matirim, chacham say it's okay. We'll see in the Gemara. V'lo yikvena mitzida. Here's mitzida. If you look closely at the megufa, he's puncturing a hole in the side of the megufa rather than on. This would be the top right over here. He's not going from the top, he's going from the side. Lo yiten olel shava. So you see, there's a bunch of wax going on there. The blue stuff is the wax. So you're not allowed to use the wax on Shabbos, mipnei, shehu, mimareach. So the problem is not plugging the hole as much as the problem is being over the isser of mimareach, which is mimachik. Smoothing it out. There's a story, Ba'arov, in a city, Ba'arov. They told him, a guy was smearing the wax in, and he said, listen, if he is, I'm concerned that he might be chayav achatas. This might be issa de'oraisa, putting in wax and smoothing it down. You know, like after Havdalah, sometimes you take the wax and you play with it on the candle. Issa de'oraisa, could be. Omar Rabbi Shaya, lo yishanu elo drusos. What kind of figs are we talking about when they're pressed figs? Remember, we had, it always talks about igule dvela, like you learn Baba Metzia, we had it in our Masechta twice at least. Igule dvela, where you take the figs and you push it down, and now they're together. So now I need a knife, I need a sword to chop this stuff up. You hear what's going on here? So when this guy takes this action, you see Yoni's picture, chops off the top of the barrel, that's only when there are dried figs in there and he needs to come onto the sword anyway to cut up the figs. So if he needs the sword to cut up his figs, then he can take the sword and break open the barrel. But if he's just going to break open a barrel and he's not going to use the sword for anything else, then the sword is muktzah. He has no right to pick up a sword. A sword is to chop people's heads off or to chop the top of the barrel off, but it's a muktzah item. So if he has an excuse that he wants to use it for the food, great. But if it's just to cut open the barrel, it's not okay. Meisvei, but I have a problem. Wine. Once he gets to the wine, then he doesn't need you don't need a sword to cut open wine. You just need the sword to cut open the barrel. So how are you going to explain this one? Maybe it's a chavish al yayin umatis roisha. You chop off the top, besayiv with the sword, umanichal ifnei archim b'shavos ve'eni chayish, no problem. Oh, he rabbonon masnisim reb Nechemya. So the Gemara tells us the secret here. If you remember all the way back when, don't remember when, we had Reb Nechemya. It's a shita that says that you cannot touch anything on Shabbos. Zero. You can't even lift a fork unless you need it for the tzarech of what you're doing. So Reb Nechemya is of the opinion that a sword is good. I could pick up a sword if I need to chop apart my figs. But to chop open a barrel, no. And Rabbanan say no. I could use any item for anything. So if I want to use a fork to scratch my ear, that's okay. Rabbi Nechemia says no. Fork is only for eating lakshin kugel and stuff like that. But to take a fork and use it for something else, absolutely not. It's muktzah. You remember this Rabbi Nechemia? Big Rabbi Nechemia. So the one place that says I could chop open a barrel for wine with a sword, that's because I hold like Rabbanan. The sword has many purposes. One of them is to open a barrel. The other place that says that you could only use a sword if you have dried figs, that's Rabbi Nechemia, because it goes for a specific purpose, dried figs to cut open food. That's when I could use the sword. Says the Gemara, "My duchke der Rabbi Shai loik me masisig Rabbi Nechemia with rusais." Rabbi Nechemia is a das yachid, and you're telling me this whole mission that goes according to the das yachid, like Rabbi Nechemia, a wild cheat of Rabbi Nechemia with rusais. Look at Rabbi Furada, he's been Furada, he's Rabbanan. Wouldn't it be a lot better to say we're talking about figs that you don't need a sword, and it goes according to Rabbanan? Omarava masisig shita makes a lot of sense. My ear, they're talking groigros, listening peiros. Why does the Mishnah use the word groigros? From all the fruits in the world, the Mishnah uses figs, because figs are special that when they get hard and they stick to each other, you need a very blunt object like a sword to break them apart. Zok the Mishnah, Tanya Chadom, you have these baskets full of figs and dates, matir umafkia vechoitach, and they're tied with like a string. You could undo the string if it's not a kesher shekayama. You could cut it apart, break it apart. In other words, I'm using a knife for something that's not typically done, to cut string. No. According to Rabbi Nechemia, this would be a big problem, right? Because Rabbi Nechemia says you could use a knife only to smear butter, to cut your chicken, but not to cut string. Oh, this fits in beautifully with Rabbi Nechemia. So now we have the perfect answer. The one that says you can't carry a knife to cut string is Rabbi Nechemia. The other one is Rabbanan. This time Rabbi Nechemia, even a spoon, vafilu talis, your talis, a beged, vafilu sakin, a knife, a nitolan elo l'tzorech l'shmisha. You cannot use a beged for sitting on it, whatever. Your beged is for a beged, a knife is for a knife, and that's it. That's the only way you could touch them on Shabbos. Can I make a hole in a barrel with a spear? Take a spear and poke it right through the barrel. Is he trying to make a nice new hole? And maybe it's also or maybe he just wants it to come out nicely. He wants to show his guests how much he loves them, and he doesn't care. He wants it to be large. And maybe it's mutter. This is also. Maybe you see, you could chop off the top of the barrel with a knife. Says Gemara, and the reason why it's usher is because he's trying to be large. Why? Because if he was trying to get it off, he'd just peel it off nicely. Why is he chopping it? Why is he making a whole show? Because he's trying to show off to his guests and he wants to be layin yafa. So this megufa again. What's a megufa? The seal on the barrel. This guy. So you see, he takes a hammer, makes a little hole on top. You're not allowed to do that. The whole machloikis in the Mishnah is on top, going downwards, making a nice hole. But if you do it to the side, the re'akal aser. Why? Because when you make a hole from the side, now you're making a perfect hole where dirt can't get in. But when you make it on top, it's really problematic because dirt could still come in. It's not very good. And that's what it means. He's learning pshat. You're not allowed to make a hole from the side. The machlokes is when you go sideways from the side, and that's the one. Manama says it's asur. Because look, I made a nice hole. The mandama says it's mutter. That's not the way to do it. Aval al gabo, but from the top, the called mutter. That's a terrible hole. Dirt's going to get in there, etc. So why does it say you shouldn't make a hole from the side? Hasan begufa the chavis. We're not talking about in the cap, the megufa. We're talking about gufa the chavis, the actual physical wooden barrel. Oh, and that hole is problematic because now you're creating something new and good. You're not allowed to create a new hole in a barrel on Shabbos. But if you already have, let's say, a 1-inch hole, you can make it 1.5 inches. You're not allowed to add to the size of the hole, the circumference of the hole. And everybody agrees. If there's a hole already that you had there and was plugged up, I could undo it. I could open up an older hole. How come you can't make a brand new hole? Because you're making something nice, new. So when I add to an existing hole, I'm also being misaken. Rabbi said, you have to play this game with me for a second. I don't care how shy you are and how new you are. Oh, Yoni K, I don't know who you are. Shalom Aleichem. And Zevi, Shupar, I think it is, yeah? Shalom Aleichem. 2 new people, 2 new faces for me at least. Akopam, let me ask you a question. If you have a chicken coop, I don't know if you had this big schos of ever going into a chicken coop, but it smells terrible in there. So, no? Simon Cohen says not so much. It's not only does it smell bad, the whole neighborhood smells. Maybe with today's, they have fans and all sorts of stuff. They put deodorant on. I don't know what they do. Fine. I had the big schos when I learned in Tifrach. There was a lot of chicken coops there when I was 10, 11 years old. So you go into the chicken coop. If you want a chicken coop, just tell me, show me 1, 2, 3, 0 fingers. Go like this. I need everybody on the screen to tell me, why would I, the owner, make a hole in the chicken coop? For air to go out or air to go in or both? Simon says 2, 3. I got a 3, I got 2. 1. Anybody say 1 here? You got to play the game. I don't care who you are. Everybody on the first screen has to play this game. Even Zavi. Everybody says 2. Wow. Anybody else? 3. I got a bunch of 3s. 1. A big default. Geschmack. Okay. No, the reason why I'm asking is because it's very interesting in the Gemara here. So the Gemara asks, when you add to the hole, you're adding You're being misakin mana. You're fixing something. You had a hole that was 1 inch, now it's 2 inches. That's a problem. Why is it different making a brand new hole or making a hole that was 1 inch into 2 inches? Isn't it the same? Omer Rabbo, Dvar Torah, Kol Pesach Sheni, Osur Lachnis Lohoitzi in Pesach. Midoraisa, the only hole that's osur. By the way, all the people that said 2, they already learned this sugya. No, I'm just kidding. These are Talmidei Chachamim. They're used to this stuff. So, any hole, in order for you to be over, it has to be a 2-way. It can't be a one-way street. It has to be a 2-way street, in and out. Oh. And if Einoi Yosalachins Loitzi, Einoi Pesach, you're not over. Rabbanan knew the Gazur, and Rabbanan said, Mishul Lul Shatari Goylem, because of a chicken coop. What confuses people? Because chicken coops smell so bad that you would think that the reason why the guy makes a hole in it is to let all the terrible fumes escape. But what they're forgetting is that it's also to allow fresh air in. Oh. And therefore, people say, making a hole in chicken coop, you're not over the eraisa. Now, in a chicken coop, nobody in the right mind is going to add to the diameter. Why? Says the Gemara. Let's turn over to Amud Beis, sponsored by Shia Greenfield, who's for some reason, I think he's in America, and I think he's listening to Shir. I'm not sure why. I thought I saw him driving around in his car before. Anyway, here he is. Reb Shia Greenfield. I said your name? That's why I'm allowed mitzchos. Fine. So somebody, a guy in Chicago, texted me, "Hey, could I watch your shir now? It's after Chatzai." I said no, especially if it's enjoyable. Listen, if it's a terrible thing, if it brings back terrible memories from Cheder, go ahead, watch it. It's nothing like it. So why can't I? So the thing is like this: if I have a hole, I'm a farmer. I have a chicken coop. I know exactly what I'm doing. I make a certain hole. Nobody that has a hole on a chicken coop is going to make a larger hole. Why? Again, going back to Tifrach days, I remember there was a thing. In Hebrew, it's called a nimiyah. Nimiyah is a mongoose, and they have them all over Israel apparently, and they had them in Tifrach. And these mongooses, they love chicken. Chicken is their favorite. So they'll get into the chicken coop somehow, and they kill, in one night, they'll kill 200 chickens, no problem. One guy will kill 200. He doesn't need to eat 200, he will kill all of them. So the big problem is, and I remember when I was a kid, I might be wrong, this is a 10-year-old remembering something, is that all the chickens become treif, because you don't know which one this nimiyah, this mongoose got a hold of. It's a major problem for the farmer. Big loss. Not only does he have 200 dead chickens there, but 10,000 chickens might go bye-bye. Something like that. That's what I remember a shaila. But the point is, Mishum Richasho. Oh, and Rashi says in the top line here, you have these terrible nimiyas, these mongooses, certain animals, a chulda, a rat. They'll come in there and they'll destroy your chicken. So you don't want to make the hole larger. The whole reason why I made Xera is because it's little Shultan and Goylem, because people don't realize that it's in and out. And the little Shultan and Goylem is not something I make larger. So I would think that I'm allowed to make it larger. You're not allowed to add to a hole. No. Even when I make a chicken coop, me the farmer, maybe I'll be off. I think that in order to get the stench out of there is 3 inches. In fact, I need 6-7 inches. Smaller than a nemiyah, but larger than what I have right now. And maybe I'll try to make it larger. And I'll make it larger. The Yeshayim are right that people make mistakes and people want to enlarge even the chicken coop, even though you're so concerned that this animal will come in. No, they'll make sure it doesn't come in. But what they have right now is not sufficient to get the stench out. Everybody agrees that you're allowed to like reopen an old wound. On the barrel, we're going to see there's 3 areas in the barrel. So says Shmuel that everybody agrees they could open up a hole or plug a hole. Well, what does it say there? It says open a hole, but is there a continuation? 1 second. No, sorry, that's somewhere else. Okay. Says the Gemara, so, if I'm plugging up a hole where I'm concerned that the good aroma of the wine is going to escape, so I plug up a hole. I could plug it up. Guess what? I could use a tissue. Let's say this will also do the job. I'll plug it in, and shalom. The aroma will stay in there. So that's not a problem. But if I'm plugging up a hole that's going to strengthen the barrel, in other words, so wine shouldn't come out. Oh, that's a whole different type of plugging up. That's a plug that's very strong. And memela, it's aser. Why is it aser? Because now I'm creating something. Says Gemara, what does it mean? Above the wine level, zel shamer. That's for the reyach. Where there's wine, zel chazik. Rava Amar, no. Even where there's wine. So let's say this is wine. So right over here says Rava is l'shamer. But down here, when I have the pressure of all the wine above, that pressure is way too much for a typical plug. Over there, I need to make a really strong plug, and therefore it's asur. Below the sediment. In other words, all the way on the bottom. Abaye tells Rava, look, I have somebody that gives proof to you. It says, Bayis sosum yeshli arba amos. I don't know if this is going to confuse you or help you, but it's a chart nevertheless. You see the top one? Those are 2 door openings to a house. So when you divide a house, there's 2 houses, one on the top, one on the bottom. So you see the bottom one? Each one of those squares represents Daled Amos in front of a door. The poor guy that lives on top over here, he only has 2 entrances. So he gets, when they're dividing a field, let's say Yerusha, he gets 1 and 2. He gets 2 Daled Amos. This guy gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He gets 4 more than the other guy. Then they make a line down the middle. They divide everything equally. So that's in Bava Basra, right? So even if I closed off a door, I no longer use that door. What I have here, I only have 2 doors, but I have 4 doors that were closed up. I get an extra 4 amos for each door that was closed up. Paris is psimov, ein lo daled amos. Where's that picture I had? Here. Here's psimov, the stuff in brown. You see, it's like it's a mashkoiv. How do you say? It's a jam around the door made out of stone. The brown stuff. If once I remove that and everything is nice and flush, then ein lo daled amos. Basically, Abai is trying to prove that if I make a really nice plug, like in a house where I take out the door jamb and I make it nice and flush, then it's as if there's no more hole over there. And if it's not very nice, then there's still a pesach, there's still a hole. So too in a barrel. If I make a really nice plug, then it's a isser. Now I did something proper. And if it's shvach, you plugged it with a tissue, then that's not considered a good plug, and I'm not over anything. Parts is psimov. If I take off, now, next halacha, bayis sosum. Now we're talking about a dead person. Weird case. A guy has a small little house. In those days, their houses are anyways 4x4 amas. Somebody dies. He decides to make it like those Rebbes. If you ever go to the Beis HaKvaros, the Rebbe has like this giant, I don't know what it's called, like a little, they make a shawl on top of his thing, whatever. So this guy takes a house, plugs the door, closes up the door, and he calls it a kaver. Now, why is that significant? Because if it's a true kaver, a regular kaver today, there's a Gzeri D'Rabbanan, that around the kaver 4 amos is tamei. So if the house is considered a kaver, then I have to give all around the house 4 amos of tumah. And if it's not a kaver, then not. So how do I decide if it's a kaver? So same thing, same Allah. You don't give it 4 amos. Paras is psiva. If this is the house and I got rid of the brown and now it's just flush brick everywhere, then it becomes a kaver, and then all of a sudden there's 4 amos of tumah all around. Gufta. What's a gufta? Excuse these pictures, but gufta is like this is from Pirush Chai, it's not my art. But this is it's like a straw you put in here and the wine comes out of here. Now what I could do is, I could also use a hadas and fold it in half, this green hadas, fold it in half, and then that also becomes a spigot. Says the Gemara, Gufta, Rava, Osar, Shmol, Shari. Now, Mechatich lechatchila, says the Gemara, if I cut this reed, lechatchila, I make a straw, the kula amali pligadas. You can't do that on Shabbos. A hadure, if I had a straw, pop that, I plug it back in, the kula amali pligadas shari. So where's the machlokes? If to put it back in is mutter, and to make one lechatchila is aser. So where's the machlokes? Kipligi, the chaticha, the chatcha, v'loy metakna. I had this piece ready. Here's my straw. Before Shabbos, I had this. It was already, but you know what? I didn't put it into the hole to see if it fits. I have the length and everything. Now I have to see if it fits. Man dosar. I'm concerned that if I allow this and you're going to start playing with it and pushing it in, then you'll cut it l'chatchila. Man deshari like gazrinon, ketanoi like a machlik tanoim. Ein chaytchem sheferish b'yomtiv. You're not allowed to cut like a straw on yontiv. Vein tzarich leim b'Shabbos, and if I can't do it on yontiv, certainly not on Shabbos. Nafla, what if it popped out of the barrel? Machzir is Shabbos. I can put it back in Shabbos. Oh, if I can put it back on Shabbos, vein tzarich leim b'yontiv, then of course I can do it on yontiv. Rabbi Yoshia Mekel, what is going on? What does this mean? Rabbi Yoshia's Mekel, where, what, how? Rabbi Yoshia Hayo. It can't be that Rabbi Yoshia says that I could make one l'chatchila. That's fixing on Shabbos. Ve'ela seifa. He says that you could put it back in. Nobody argues in that. Everybody else you can put it back in. He cut it before Shabbos, but he didn't fit it properly. Mar sova gazrino, mar sova gazrino, and that's machlokes. Do we geyser that you'll come to cut a brand new fresh one or not? Darsh Rav Shisha Breder Ravidi Mishmei Rav Yochanan. Halachic Rav Yoshia. Halacha is he's mekel. You're allowed to. Vim hoisen akuva. Says the Gemara Mishcha. What if I take congealed oil? Rav Asar Shmuel Shari. You're not allowed to use congealed oil on Shabbos and smooth it down. Mandos har gazinim mishum shava. This is really on wax, and this is similar to wax. So I'll make it zero. Oman the Shari like is rinon. Omer Rav Shmuel bar Chanol Rav Yosef beferish Amar Shlomo Shmei Rav Mishcha Shari. You what do you do? Rav says mafurish that it's allowed. Like in the beginning of the sugi, said Mishcha Rav Asar. It's Asar, and he says no. You told us. Now don't forget, Rav Yosef is famous. We had a bunch of times already that Rav Yosef forgot all his learning, and they had to remind him his learning. So that's what is going on here. It says. Beferish Amrslan, you, when you were healthy, you told us, the Rav said it's mutter. Omar Tavois Rishba. Also a bunch of times in Shas. He was a hunter. I think we had that. Rashi said, I didn't have time to look it up. Rashi said he hunted birds. Anyway, Lamashana, he was a hunter, whatever he hunted. Omar Tavois Rishba, Omar Shmuel. Hai tarpo da aso osur. Oh, so this guy is osur. You want to take a piece of hadas and fold it in half and use it as a spigot, osur. Why? Because you might come to make a marzev. What's a marzev? A gutter. Now, by the way, unfortunately, there's no New Yorkers here besides Shea Greenfield. He'll have an You know, in New York they call it gutter. They say gutter. They don't even say the R. They drop the R at them. So gutter in Brooklyn, at least, not New York, in Brooklyn, a gutter is the street. My mother told me not to go in the gutter. That's how they say it. Don't ask me why, but a gutter is that piece right by the sidewalk. So, I took out the garbage because my mother told me to, and I spilled it all in the gutter. Omar, yeah, I used to live in Brooklyn. I used to talk like that. I have videos of me. That's literally how I used to sound. It's also because of the gutter. Rav Ashi, what does that mean? So, Rashi learns like this. There's a gutter, not a gutter from your house that catches the rain, but you might make a little bit of a fold. If the hadas has a fold, you're going to come and make a gutter. Rav Ashi Omar, no, we're not concerned about a gutter. Rav Ashi Omar, that you might pull one of these hadasim off a branch. Now the branch is not attached to the tree. You have a branch that's off the tree, so it's not mechuber yet anymore. The problem is you might come and pull one leaf off this branch. And what's the problem with that? Oh, the problem is misakim mana. I'm fixing something on Shabbos. Maybe now, what's the difference if it's a gutter or it's hadas? It could be the kotamu manchi. He might, if you already have prepared hadasim ready, all on a plate somewhere. So according to the Mandama, says the problem is you might come to cut one off, and that's it's already cut, not a problem. According to the Mandama, you might make a gutter, that's a problem. Beisadyo, what about felt? I want to wrap myself with a bunch of felt. Rav Osar Ushmul Shari. Machloikis. Birachin, says the Gemara, if it's very soft, the kulam aloy pligi the shari, it's mutter wise, it's like clothing. I'm cold, so I warm myself up with a felt blanket. Bekashin, if it's very stiff, the kulam aloy pligi the asa. Of course it's asa, it's not a beged. You come to take it off. Keep pligi b'mitzay. So the whole machloikis is medium. Man dosar mechzikim asui. The one that says it's asa, why? Because it looks like you're carrying something. It's heavy stuff. It's not clothing. Man, okay. Says the Gemara, other Rav la beferish itmar. He didn't say mefurish el miklala itmar. Rav never said osir. What happened? The Rav Ikla asked her, there's a story. He once went to a place. He went into a shul. And there was no room in the shul. In other words, so many people came to hear Rav speak. It was jam-packed. He felt bad for everybody. He says, let's go outside. Let's take this outdoors. They go outside into a Carmelis. Isolate Beisadia. So they come and they bring him a Beisadia. They bring him some of this felt. What kind of felt? Obviously, we're talking about a medium one, because if it was a very stiff one, the Gemara wouldn't bring the story. If it was very soft, the Gemara wouldn't bring the story. We're talking about a medium one. Taisa says this, but it's obvious. Nafag Yosef Carmelis. So they bring this felt stuff. Lo Yosef, he didn't use it. Oh, man, the chazah from the Veisad Yosef. So they assumed the reason why Rav never sat on it is because he paskins that medium felt is also velohi. That's not true. The Rav achruzi machriz Veisad Yishari, because Rav is the one that said that you're allowed or you're permitted to. So why didn't he use it? He didn't sit on it because of his rabbis. Who's that? Umaninu, Rav Kahana and Rav Asi. Rav Kahana and Rav Asi learned by Rav, but they became chashav, they became g'dolim. Then they became like his friends. So once they became his friends, he wanted them to sit as well. He didn't want to be the only one sitting, and Mamela he refused to sit on the Beis Sadia. So that's why you have to be careful. You see a story, you can learn from it a halacha. They understood that Rav said it's asur. In fact, Rav said it's mutter. And he didn't sit on it for other reasons. Says the Mishnah, Noisim tafshil techabar b'shvil sheyeshamar. No need for pictures, but why not? I take a pot and I put it into a pit. What you see from this picture is it lacks water, because that's based on Rashi. Rashi says there's no water in this pit. This pit is just a nice, cool place to put your pot. Next halacha. You have nice geschmacka filtered water. You take the cup or whatever you have, you put it in disgusting water. It'll cool it off a little bit. And then you take your nice cool water, you want to warm it up, you put it in the sun. You're allowed to cook in the sun. There's no real isser. Now we had a different sugi here. So you take the thing, you put it in the sun. Take the top one, put it in water. In the nasty, you put the good stuff in the nasty water. Fine. Says I got to tell you Maisa from Motzei Tisha B'Av. I might have even said the story. So I was a very big jet ski guy. So that's a whole different story. But so I took out my jet ski in Chicago, and as you know, I was brought up going to the mikveh. You got to go to the mikveh, even though I'm Litvish. Let mikveh. So I have my jet ski. And it's like, I don't remember, I have Shabbos or something. I'm far off the shore. So I'm like, I look around, there's nobody there. This is a good time to go to the mikveh. So I jump into the water. And I decided, you know what? Nobody's here. So I might as well take off my bathing suit completely. So I take off my bathing suit and I put it on the seat of the jet ski. And I dunk. Suddenly a big giant wave comes and knocks my bathing suit off the jet ski. The panic that I had, it's like this whole movie played in my head. Now I have to get on the jet ski without a bathing suit, go to the shore. I mean, how do I explain myself? Come off the jet ski, tie it to my car. Like, what am I going to do? And I'm panicking. I'm swimming underwater looking for this thing. Baruch Hashem, I found it. Anyway, why am I telling you this story? Because as I'm reading this Mishnah, it occurred to me, I'm not the only Mishnah. It says, Mi shenashru kelav. If his clothes fell off of him, b'derech b'mayim. He was walking and his clothes fell off. So what does he do? Mahalach behen ve'ina choishish. Here, there's not a picture of a jet ski. It would have been geschmack if you only had my jet ski picture. But anyways, his clothes fell off. What does he do? He walks in them all wet and everything. And you don't have to worry about it, about schita. As soon as he gets home, he takes them off and puts them in the sun to dry off. Never do this in front of other people. It's not, you don't do that. People are going to think you just did your laundry. What's going on here? Says the Gemara Pshita. What's the whole chiddush that you could put your tafshel in a bar? The bottom of the pit, like you're not going to put your soup sideways, right? Imagine. So you're going to try to level out the bottom of the pit. That's a shvui gumais. Maybe that should be a concern. You see how you have to always think in Hilchas Shabbos, like, which would seem simple to us here, but maybe it's barer, maybe it's a shvui gumais, maybe it's second. So you have to constantly think about this stuff. But you putting the pot down and you're going to maybe just go once over on the ground to make sure it's nice and smooth, that's a shvui gumais, that's awesome. Kamashmalan, that's not a problem. You're allowed to put nice water and bad water, pshita, safe it's richalei. What's the chiddush? Of course you could. That I could put cold water in the sun. That we know that you're allowed to, it's not considered cooking in the sun, it has to be with a fire. Remember all the way in the beginning of the sechta, the chashash is that you're going to cover it with coals. Kamash malon. One last thing here. We have a problem. If it's usher for you to do it in front of other people, so you're not allowed to do the same thing even in a private room. I have no idea. I think I'm going to be wrong on this, but I'm just saying it as a far out mashal. Because when we go to Chicago, so even though we only keep one day yontif, it's as if we don't gain not one thing. The only thing we gain that on Pesach night we don't have to sit through the whole Seder or whatever. But we can't do any malacha. We can't go on our phone. Not even in the bathroom. You can't check out your text on even bechad v'chadar. I'm not saying it's the same halacha, it's a different kind of idea, but something that's usher for you to do in front of other people, even bechad v'chadarim, even when you're in your locked closet, you can't do it. So the problem is our Mishnah, right? You could take your clothing, put it up in the sun, make sure nobody sees it. So if nobody could see it, so you can't do it even when they're not seeing, when they're not looking. Says the Gemara Tanoi, there is in fact a machlokes, could you do it b'chad v'chadar when nobody's looking? Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful night. We'll see you all tomorrow at 7:15. Welcome to all the new guests. It's not about the daf, it's about the Yomi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is smiling on every single one of you. He's very proud of you that you came to learn the daf tonight, even though it's tough. Have a good night, everybody. You could all unmute if you want. Shkoyach.
Thank you very much.
Oh, hold on.
Definitely, thank you so much.
Is that Akiva Solway? Yeah.
What poison did you have?
What? Sorry?
What poison did you have? You said you got an airplane, a jet ski, what else?
Yeah, I'm a man of toys.
We had everything. Just name it.
Motorcycle, jet skis. I had a bunch of jet skis. 2 of them got stolen in Miami. Airplane I had. What else? Oh, drones. Drones is a big thing. No. No. Snowboard. Regular skis I had for many years, yeah, until I stopped skiing. Oh, here's a good one. I have a surf kite. Here in Israel. But I haven't used it in over 3 years.
Very nice.
I'll tell you. That's one toy I don't have. I'm sorry.